here with Dr. Danny Huerta, the Vice President of Parenting and Youth at Focus on the Family. Thanks for joining, Danny.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Johann.
Okay, so you're an expert on parenting. You know everything there is to know about parenting. What is the most important thing that most parents get wrong or miss when it comes to parenting?
Wow. Really, I'd say the most is really making time to have more of the deeper conversations. There's so much to get involved with, and most parents I'm seeing just get involved with so many different things that they don't have time to really guide. They just have time to react. And there's a difference between reacting and guiding. And it takes time, it takes patience to guide, and to react, it's just on the fly, trying to corral things, and that ends up really catching up to parents down the road when they're dealing with behavior issues. So reactive parenting is not going to work. So that's the main thing I would say, Johann.
I love that. I think that is so true. What you said, most parents, they don't have time for this. They don't make time for this. Why is that? What is it that's in conflict with that?
Yeah, it's just so many demands. One of them is parents are usually working. A lot of times it's either a single parent or both parents are working. If one stays home, there are a lot of chores, a lot of things going on. And so what ends up happening is we just go to the urgent and not necessarily the important. And so then it's easy to just either go to the phone or the TV or something else to just kind of relax. And it squeezes out any type of deeper conversation, deeper guidance, or even meaningful connection. Where you're getting to know your child, you're getting to ask questions, and then you're forming your experience that's more unique to that relationship with that child, or really intentionally molding the vision and direction of where the family's going to go. And you go, oh, well, we'll get to that, or well, that'd be nice, we'll do that next month. And we keep kicking things down the road because there just isn't enough energy or enough time to get to those more important things. We saw all the urgent things we have around us and the need for pleasure and just slowing things down. What's interesting is statistics have shown that about 7 out of 10 parents are at the point of burnout. And so if you're at that point of burnout, the emotional capital needed to guide kids is just not there. And so you might be exhausted, or you may not even know how to deal with a certain behavior that's popping out. And behaviors require exploration. Like where's that behavior coming from? What's the interpretation in the child? What's that emotion? What's their personality? Can I help them see things a little differently? And that all takes energy and time. Most parents would say, man, I wish each day had like 35 hours or that I had, a good night's sleep so that I could have enough energy for everything we've got going on today. And what's interesting with that is some couples also have conflict with each other. And then they're trying to, with that emotional capital, emotional awareness, emotional energy, to be able to handle the kids' thoughts, desires, emotions that are popping, and they just don't have room for that. It creates a desire for escape from parents. That creates a big challenge on the day-to-day as you're shaping day by day, moment by moment, a child into their later development. And maybe you see it as little shifts when they're little, but when they're older, it's a much bigger shift. And you're going, hey, how did we get here? What happened to you? But it's those little moments that accumulate over time that we've put off or we've ignored that eventually catch up to us as parents.
Exactly. Aristotle says, like a ship leaving harbor, a small deviation in the beginning leads to a big deviation in the end. You've already highlighted 3 principles, which in my observation, I've seen in excellent parents. So one is be intentional. Be deliberate about what you do. The second one you said is get on the same page with your spouse. Yeah. You all have to be a united front. And the third one is you can't give what you don't have. So if you want to form your children in virtue, if you want to form them to be successful adults, well then you yourself have to be struggling to grow in those areas as well. Yeah. I'm curious, you said you got to have a vision. What's your opinion on having like a formal family vision?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings with it because it sounds so formal, but it's really clearly thinking about a direction for your family of where you're wanting to go. So even if it's an informal vision or a written vision, it is good to have a vision of where you're headed. Now, a written one helps you articulate it on a consistent basis with your kids as a family, really desiring to pursue that type of vision for the family. So writing it out's ideal. Not all personalities of parents are that structured and sure as to how they hone down a vision so it's actionable. So vision really is thinking about, what do I want to see in my family several years down the road? That's the simplifying of a vision. And it may be that by 18, my kids are getting ready to go explore the next level of their academic career and begin to explore potentially in the next few years meeting someone, having a family. I mean, it could be that. Could be instilling humility, honesty, integrity, all these character traits in your child so that they explore whatever is there for them in adulthood. And that's really what you're thinking about, a vision. A big one that I'd recommend to you is the vision of relationship, of healthy relationship in your family. What can that look like, and how do you strive for that? Because that could include conflict, healthy conflict. It can include being able to spend time together, knowing that your kids want to spend time with you after they've left the home. Knowing that you can have fun and laugh and play together and also disagree with one another. It's a healthy family that you are building and building towards that. It's not a perfect family. It's not a family that's fully successful and rich and all that. It's more of we're rich in our relationship, that there's a core health to our relationships. It's a great vision to begin with. And within that, you can start to shape what is it that I want to look, what can that look like when we're thinking of a healthy relationship as our kids begin to leave the home and begin to build their own homes on their own.
So you're a vice president at Focus on the Family. I'm very impressed with that organization. It's the best organization of that type by far, no competition that I've seen so far. So it is explicitly Christian. Now, one challenge I've seen when working with Christian families, most of the families I work with are Christian, as I am myself. But one challenge I see that actually holds them back is not appreciating how do I put this? Like the importance of natural virtues, of just normal human habits that are universal to human nature, regardless of what your religion is. And just thinking or assuming or hoping that just adding religion to it is going to make up for that. I don't know if that makes sense to you, that observation, but if it does, are you able to comment on that?
Yeah, the common virtues, I mean, we see it in scripture, we see it in other religions talked about. They're core virtues that need to be built in opposition to our normal human nature, which the human nature is self-preserving. It tends to be selfish by nature. Our own human nature tends to want to have safety naturally. And so in any type of anxiety, you tend to become selfish, self-centered. You become desperate in certain ways. So you become maybe controlling, or things get off balance when you look at the entrance of fear inside, and that's insecurity and other things. And so then our character traits are ones that are able to override some of those big emotions that kick in when we are trying to self-preserve. And so from the Christian faith, when you look at how it's laid out into a Christian faith, all throughout Scripture talks about that, right? Humility, self-control, talks about the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and then it ends with self-control. And that, all those things require a self-control. Now, other religions, Catholicism and Islam and others, also highlight a character type of formation. Really, Christianity is the only one that I've seen in the religions that it's about loving your neighbor, serving the other. It's not about yourself and just you. It's really a neighborly love that you're looking at. And so as we're looking at child development, the key ones that I've seen play out beautifully in kids that I've seen in my own practice is starting off with self-control. And we've seen studies, right, Johann, on the self-control, the importance of that is at an early age. Patience as well is so important for kids to learn how to grapple with patience. The other one's humility, being able to see that I don't have to be the best person or better than everyone else. So I don't have to get stuck in these comparisons. I can be me and I can continue to grow. And in that, I can find successes. It's not about that I need to be number one, best, most admired in order to find value and worth. It's finding value and worth in discovering who I've been created to be and in loving and serving others within a community that has to be relational. And so those three, if a child gets those early on, it begins to bring honesty into play. It brings integrity. It brings discipline, self-discipline. All these other character traits that we love to see in our teens are built on these three core early developmental character traits that could really resonate and then begin to build an adult that is relationally a healthy person.
So that was self-control, patience, and what was the third?
Humility, a humble heart, a humble disposition.
Humility. Yeah. Yeah. So my point there would be that grace builds on nature and perfects nature, which I think is what you're saying. It doesn't replace nature, and we still need to have that nature in order to be able to then utilize the benefits of grace.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, Johann, I was going to say, maybe we'll get to that at some point. In my research, I came up with 7 traits of effective parenting. And some of what we've been talking about include those 7 traits. So maybe at some point we'll get to those. But
let's get into it now. Is that the book that you published recently?
Yes. Yeah. It's
excellent.
It comes from the couple decades of counseling with families and then my dissertation. Just really wanted to make the authoritative parenting style attainable and understandable and very practical. And that's where these 7 traits come from all that research.
Perfect. That's what I was going to ask you is, can it be learned and how? So that's exactly it. Let's get into that. And I think I see it behind you right there too. 7 traits.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right there. You're right. And really the 7 traits, as I looked at what secure attachment is, that attachment that is secure, that a person leaves and hey, they'll be back. I'm still okay. My identity is not formed by whether I lost a person or not. There's still an individuality, but then a connectedness that I can have and knowing that I don't have to be anxious that I'm going to be alone. And so the secure attachment, and then the authoritative parenting style, which is high levels of warmth and sensitivity, coupled with high levels of demandingness and boundaries and expectations for our kids. And so the 7 traits begin with adaptability, being able to adapt to what is happening around me. And that's so important for a parent, is to be able to adapt and understand what's my child's personality, what's happening in the environment, what's happening in my child, in their emotions, and being able to adjust to that. And then the second one is this respect, the trait of respect, of how am I showing up in my emotions, how am I showing up physically, mentally, in order to create a connectedness and an influence with that child. Because then the next one is intentionality, and that's what we were talking about, bringing an intentionality into the mix. And then from those 3, we can have steadfast love. We can have love that is unshakable. It's not dependent on my child's performance or if they're kind or not. It's just, I love them regardless because they're my child, and it's steadfast. And then from there, now I can build boundaries and limits that make sense within the context of a loving relationship. And there's warmth and there are boundaries. I'm saying, hey, you can't do this, you can do that. And then from those boundaries and limits, those are ones I place on myself as well, model that. And then the next trait is grace and forgiveness. Do I repair and help foster repair in our home as a parent? Do I lead the way? Do I ask for forgiveness when that needs to happen? Do I admit that? And do I have grace on my child as they're going through developmental stages and certain challenges? Do I understand them well enough to bring grace into the mix? And then at the end of that is the trait of gratitude. And gratitude helps you see the role as a privilege rather than a nuisance. And then you're also able to see each day as a gift rather than, oh, here we go again. And it really helps shape your experience as a parent so that you can show up with those other 6 traits. So gratitude helps reset your brain so that you're ready for what's going to come at you.
Beautiful. Run through, if you don't mind, those 7 traits again, just so we can get the highlight tour.
Yeah, so it's adaptability, then respect, then intentionality, steadfast love, and then boundaries and limits, and then grace and forgiveness. Those are coupled, and then gratitude.
Yeah.
And then gratitude resets the mind to an adaptive mind.
Ha, nice. How did you come up with that?
That was just through counseling and working with families, how I went in sequence and what was most helpful for a parent when they were learning either from scratch or relearning, reparenting, what the sequence needed to be in their, just a cascade of the brain to help it be something that you not only remember, but regenerate as you're going through with the 7 traits.
Okay. So you have a lot of experience with family counseling. What do you say to a family that says, my 17-year-old son or daughter is addicted to their smartphone and I can't touch this thing. They're just going to rebel. They're going to get a burner phone. They're going to be in college anyways in a year. But I've practically lost my child in terms of emotional availability, intellectual availability.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a challenge and a very real one. And there's a lot to the background of a 17-year-old that you want to pay attention to. How has our relationship been in the past? Did we already have struggle before this? Or is this kind of a new struggle now that we have in our relationship and I've been cut off? So that's important information. But let's say you're just in that mix. What you want to do is that adaptability. You show up with, and by the way, when you said, where'd you come up with these? All 7 are research backed. They've shown a result in strengthening a relationship and also helping foster contributor behaviors rather than consumer behaviors. So selfless behaviors, which leave a child open to teachability. So with adaptability, you come in with understanding, validating with your child, man, this phone thing is so tempting. And it helps you feel a part of your friends and the peers, the friendships. I totally get it. I mean, this is something that feels like an amazing tool, an amazing social thing that's so important, so key. So you're validating the fact that this is something that's very enticing. And then while you look at your child, just read the nonverbals more as information rather than threats, because they may be serious, they may be scowling, they may be disconnecting, maybe they're rolling their eyes. Have that be information rather than something you need to react to. And then you figure out the second trait is respect. What's happening inside of me? What's being triggered? How can I show up in a meaningful way for my child? Because my goal is to free them, not control them. My goal is to set vision for them rather than them feeling threatened that something's going to be pulled away. Very tricky. So it requires building some type of communication bridge. And at this point, it's kind of broken because they're really wanting this freedom that has duped them into thinking they're free when they're really trapped in there. And so then you go into intentionality, and that's that intentional conversation saying, hey, I wonder what it is that is so important to you from the phone. Help me understand it better. And I want you to know that here's some observations about where you're at, where you were at and where you're at now. I'm concerned about you. I'm worried about you. And then you go to the steadfast love. And really with intentionality, you begin to think through what protections do I need to put in place? What boundaries do I need to put in place? You begin to think that as you're getting to boundaries. But first you look at the relationship where you're at. So then with steadfast love, you say, man, I love you. I would give up my life for you. I want you to understand that. I don't want to control you. I want to prepare you. And so I hope you trust that. And they say, no, I don't trust it. You go, okay, well, maybe at some point you will. I do love you. And at this point, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to love you. And sometimes that's making the hard decisions that need to be made. I'm going to take back this phone for a while as you reset. And I want you to see what happens to you in your brain. And they may say, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I can't believe it. They may start yelling. And in that, you have to go back to this adaptability. They're in chaos in their emotions. You don't have to be. And so you can just look at them, watch them as they're having their moment. It's just a grown-up tantrum. And what you can do is just say, hey, I get it. This is tough. I love you. You kind of stay to your points, right? And then when they're done, you say, man, I love you. Because you could easily get sucked in, and all of a sudden you break the bridge even further by saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're doing this and you're throwing a tantrum. That's not helpful, because now you're both all over the place, dysregulated. So then that's where you have grace and forgiveness, where you're going in and you're saying, man, I'm forgiving this chaos that's happening in my child's brain, but I need to stick strong to the boundaries that need to be put in place. And maybe it's, hey, you know what, we're going to go see a counselor together. We'll navigate this. We'll get some good perspective. And you set that appointment. And then the gratitude piece is that's the one you need to go to, say, man, I'm so grateful I get to help shape this heart, this human being. And you have to remind yourself of that, right? I'm thankful. Just thankful that you're breathing, but also thankful that in the future, if you invest in this now, in the future, you're going to have some good times. Be patient with that part, but grateful that you can have a a group of people around you encouraging you, giving you the courage you need to do what's right rather than doing what's comfortable now, doing what's right now so that it's a future investment.
What you just said is absolutely brilliant. You incorporated so many psychological techniques there. I want to break down here now for our audience why what you said was so powerful. So the first thing you said, validating. See, recognizing the benefit that this addiction serves for the child. So that comes from motivational interviewing, which is a treatment designed for addicts. And the first thing that to learn about an addict is if you tell them not to do what they're addicted to, they're just going to resist you. So you actually want to double down on why what they're doing is beneficial for them. And that's the only way that they will start to open up and change their mind. The other thing you said is having a deep understanding of your child, his situation, his emotions. That's extremely important. The first step to being able to help someone is understanding them. And that is often the most neglected step. We just jump into what's called the righting reflex, which is just trying to fix the person right away. Just, hey, do this, just listen to my advice, etc. The other thing you said is acting mindfully. So this is an important part of DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, when you're working with difficult conversations using the Dear Man framework. You guys can Google that. It's very powerful.
It is.
You want to act mindfully and rather than being reactive. So another thing you said there is, you put it so well, hey, I can see how difficult this is for you. This is tough for you. So that is a key part of what's called supportive parenting for anxious childhood emotions, which comes from Dr. Ellie Leibovitz from the Yale Child Study Center. It's my favorite approach for child anxiety. And it's when you're making those supportive statements, the first part is acknowledging the difficulty that it presents for the child. This is tough for you. I see this is tough for you. It's easier for moms to articulate that. It's harder for dads to say
so
that.
True.
It requires some empathy there. But then capping it all off, you have the authoritative parenting, which is, look, in the end of the day, I've been entrusted by God to raise you into being a good person. And that's what is most important to me. And I'm not your buddy. I'm not here just trying to satisfy your emotional comforts, etc. I'm here to parent you. And let's not forget what a parent is, right? So that's correct. The authoritarian. Sorry, I just made a mistake. That's the authoritative parenting style, which is in distinction to, on the one hand, permissive parenting, which is, let me just be your buddy and do it and let you do whatever you want. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got the authoritarian parenting, which is, hey, you just shut up and do what I tell you to do because you're a kid, I'm the adult, and what you feel and think doesn't matter at all. So those are the two extremes we want to avoid. And then ending with the gratitude and the cognitive reframing, which gratitude is the ultimate fruit, seeing the challenge itself as the opportunity. So I'm amazed at how you incorporated all those techniques, man. I mean, you are a psychologist, but you're more informed than most. I can say that. So
thank you.
Now, given how well, do you have any comments on that before I jump into the next question?
Well, Johann, no, I love how you broke down within the research, and I think the goal for us, and I'm sure on your show right now, is to simplify things and let parents know you got this. You got this, even when it feels like it's the end. Like it's 2 minutes to go in the game, right? It's the 2-minute warning, and we are down by a lot. Man, you still have time. Go for it. You got it. You got to give it your best shot. You can't just give up. Your child will be your child, and I know we can't call them. We need to find a new word for this is my child when they're 26, right? This is my person, right? that I love so much.
My progeny.
And just seeing that it is all worthwhile, Johann. I love how you brought in all those different techniques. You're absolutely right. So much research behind this. But the beautiful thing is all research affirms what we've already discovered in Scripture. It's already been written all throughout there in the dynamics of relationship. And if you ever get a chance, Colossians 3:12-17 is gold. And it tells you, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. And also says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. This is about letting something happen. It also talks about putting on certain things. There are action steps we take even as Christians. We need to take some actions. Put on and let are very main words in that piece of scripture, but it gives you a real good framework for how we do relationship, and it begins with compassion. So love how that's laid out. I think Paul was a great psychologist that and God spoke right through him to us using all those psychological terms. And man, I could go on and on with that, but I know you have other questions.
He was an incredible human being. I wish I could have him on this podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
To pick his brain. Okay, so a more controversial take here. So what I've often seen is, especially when it comes to the technology thing, the mom is like so empathetic. I mean, it's amazing how often people fit into these stereotypes. I guess because it's our nature. The mom is so empathetic. He's not going to have friends. He's not going to be able to handle things, and he'll be able to use it well. The dad is often, this is stupid. Why does he have a phone? Like, this is not helping him. Why does he play video games? I just want to cut this off right away. Yeah. So as I think about this more and more, I'm wondering if the dad is actually, if there is like a disagreement between the mom and the dad, well, what do you do? I mean, that's if each person has an equal vote, what are you going to do? That's a stalemate right there. Is it the role of the father to take the head of the family and say, like, hey, look, this is what I believe is best for the family, and this is what we're going to do?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. I love it. The answer would be yes, but with a caveat that the father shows up with adaptability, right? Shows up with that understanding of what are my wife's desires and why? What are my child's needs and why? And there's that sacrifice is saying, I may be seeing things wrong and I need to gather all the information and really understand what's going on. And I'm going to carefully seek wisdom as I bring direction. If it's just, I'm tired of this and I just want to, and it's a powerful trying to just shut it down because it feels so frustrating. And you're going, why can't you just leave this alone? This is crazy. And they're just tired of all the emotional upheaval. And it's more out of convenience to get rid of that emotional upheaval in their home. And they're tired of that and they just don't have the energy for it. Then it's just not healthy. But if a father's committed to gathering information and getting wisdom, he'll be trusted by his spouse because he's listened carefully to her. And wives love that type of leadership, not one that's impulsively just saying, let's just get rid of all this. And they're not listening. If you had a boss like that, it'd be hard to listen to them. If we think from a male perspective, we're in a business, they don't listen to you and they just make a decision and squash your kind of influence. Then you're going, wait a minute, why am I even here? Right. And so this is, you want to think about how would you want to be treated when you're dealing with the person that's going to make the final decision and it's being listened to, being taken into consideration. The person seeks wisdom, carefully thinks it through, and then gives direction. Man, I'm going to trust that. And so that's how dads need to show up into these moments.
That is true leadership. I love that. So you're thinking like a general in battle. You're taking into account your soldiers, your people. You would give your life for them, and you're doing what's best for them. I'd love to hear how successful are you with actually helping parents? Because we can have all the knowledge, we can know how to do it, but we can't do it for them, right?
Right.
So
right.
What is your message of hope for parents that, hey, look, I've seen people do a 180, I've seen people turn it around, you can do it, and if you follow these steps.
Yeah, and one of my first statements that I tell people that come into my practice, and this is from the counseling side, I'll tell them, the sooner you fire me, the better it is. And the idea is that you're firing me because we got exactly to where we needed to go. And so we want to make it's as fast as you guys invest into this. And I'm just giving you the tools along the way that you need to have. And then it's up to you on how long this is going to take. I've seen a lot of success with that when teens and kids are motivated to get through the therapy and just be done with those appointments. And it brings them into that. And but it's also a place that's safe where people can be understood. From our content perspective, with Plugged In, with our Q&A section and Focus on the Family, through our 7 Traits of Parenting assessment, through all the tools that we give parents. And when I go speak to parents, I'll tell them, hey, this is definitely doable. And imagine your home, how it would be if you incorporated these things. Have that be your motivation, not your willpower, because you won't get there. It's more, what is it that you imagine would be, what could your home be like if you made these changes? Think about, just picture your relationships 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Do you love it? And if so, do it. If you don't love it, and if you love just kind of how it's going and and you think it's going a good trajectory, stick to that. But I would really recommend this type of structure if you're envisioning that. And I have seen parents stick to that initial, how am I adapting? Then it's natural after that. How am I adjusting myself? How am I being intentional? How am I being loving in a steadfast way? How am I putting boundaries in there? Do I have grace and forgiveness? And then am I grateful for what's going on here? And if they continually do that, it helps them in having at least some type of checklist to go through as you're entering into that parenting. And I've seen parents say, our momentum is going in a good direction. And that's the key word. You have an invitation as a parent, and that invitation helps you either give a counter momentum or to help a momentum go in a certain direction. And watch that momentum where it's going. And the more you get momentum, I've seen parents go, man, this is going so well. And when something doesn't go as well for that day or that moment or that week, they know, hey, we're heading a good direction. And they're able to absorb that momentum and keep it going in the right direction. And that's what you want to do, because that eventually creates a steadfastness, a resilience of a family. When you see life as a momentum, and there are counter momentums coming at your family all day long, including screens that are trying to throw things off, but you've got a certain direction of momentum, that's the invitation you need to show up to as a parent, those intersections with your kids. And if you do so, just by being intentional, we know research tells us there is a great impact just by that simple thing of just being intentionally present, listening to your child, and then directing them in a direction. Research affirms that. But if you tune out, things will land in random places for you.
And how much time do parents need to be willing to invest before they start seeing results here?
Yeah. As you go into, it depends. There's so many things that it depends on here. If you've had a background in psychology or counseling or been in counseling, this is kind of reinforcer to those concepts. If at church you've been to a bunch of variety of parenting classes, or at school, or if you were parented very well, your parents showed up and were very intentional, then these are a lot of reinforcing type of concepts. And so it's faster for a parent going, oh, that's right, I need to be doing that. Great reminder. I love it. But if your parents weren't involved, weren't engaged, and you haven't been exposed to very many parenting resources, then it's gonna take a big investment to figure out what this looks like and to relearn some things, almost reparent yourself and think, man, if I would have had that, what would have that been like for me as a person and now as a parent? And the investment of time, I would say, in a week, if you invested maybe an hour or two of learning in a week, even if it's 30 minutes, so you're learning something new per week, that's 52 times during the year you're going to get that. And you learn one practical nugget, that's 52 different things that you're going to be able to invest in your child, 52 building blocks that you're putting in your child. And in that, it's going to open up conversations and things like that. And so your investment needs to be a natural conversation, carving out time so you're not just going to screens and missing out on the relational building that takes place day to day. But the learning can be little nuggets at a time. And within a year, you can accumulate a lot of learning as long as you're applying it slowly, bit by bit.
So we got your book, 7 Traits. What would be your top 3 resources, books, podcasts for parents in addition to that?
Well, obviously, I'm going to be a little biased with Focus on the Family on some of the ones that we've developed right now for parents. One of them that took us a few years to build, technology caught up to it, is an age and stage resource where you go to mykidsage.com, you open up a free account with Focus on the Family, you put the ages or the month and year of each of your kids, then you receive a weekly e-newsletter with articles and practical tips for you as a parent, videos that are being put in there as well. And that's all customized to the stage you're in. And then you receive immediately content to the ages of each of your kids. And what that includes are 10 pages of highly illustrated PDF content. And it's the 5 areas of development, what to expect in the 5 areas of development for each of your kids that you signed up for, what to build in the areas of spiritual growth, sexuality, technology and entertainment, mental health, and everyday parenting. Those 5 areas, what can you intentionally build in that age of your child's development? And then how to grow in your rhythms of your home, of a Christian home, how to grow in the 7 traits of effective parenting, and then how to grow in building resilience on your child. And that comes from the research from Search Institute on the 40 developmental assets. And so that's age specific. So then on their birthday, the next birthday, you receive the next 10 pages of content for that age. And so from 0 to 18, you've got content aging with your kids, and we'll be able to update it because it's a digital type of resource, and it's free, absolutely free. And then our podcast, I have one, it's Practice Makes Parent, and I have that podcast with Rebecca St. James. And just know that our team is researching, what are parents asking about? What are they struggling with? We try to bring the right guests into that podcast, and then we answer questions if you ask those. We're trying to make that the best tool for you as parents. So those are the 7 traits of effective parenting. We do have an assessment for you that's also free, and you can just come to focusonparenting.com, look for the assessment, and right there you can take that. It'll take you about 5 to 7 minutes to do that, and then you're taken on a journey of discovery of knowing where you're at as a parent. And beyond that, there's an old book, Johann, that I loved, The Danger of Raising Nice Kids. That was a really intriguing book for me early in my career, and I love what it talked about in that. And I think I have a copy right here. Yeah, I have one here. I tell parents about it. It's right there. The Danger of Raising Nice Kids by Timothy Smith. Maybe even be out of print, but man, I love that topic because that's the
best ones are.
Yes, and that we want to create world changers. We want to raise world changers, not just nice kids, right?
Exactly. Dangerous but good.
Yes, that's right.
As said in Narnia. Yeah. This was awesome, man. What a fire recording right here, man. I hope this doesn't get out to too many people because it's going to take over right here. Well, any last words you want to end us on, Danny? This was great.
No, I love your personality, Johann. You have a calmness about you.
Thank you.
You draw people out. God is using you and where you're at, and I just want to encourage you there as you're pouring into parents. And the word I'd love to give for parents is really be steadfast. Be steadfast in your parenting. Don't just go for the shiny things. Don't go for emotions. Stay deeply rooted yourself. And I love that in Deuteronomy 6, the Shema, where it talks about love the Lord your God with all you've got, with all your heart, soul, and strength. And then talks about mind when Jesus mentions this, the Shema. And then it says, in everything you do, find teachable moments where you're bringing into play your faith, and make it an everyday rhythm as you're teaching your kids. And the more you see them through a lens of love, the more creative you'll become in what you form for them. Can I give 2 quick wins for you as a parent? Can I do that?
Absolutely. Everything you said so far is spot on. Let's hear it.
So one thing that a while back I thought about when I was thinking about my daughter looking at herself in the mirror as she was growing older, I said, man, a lot of lies come through that mirror. How can I bring life-giving words that are not being spoken, but that are seen by my daughter? And so I decided to do it for my son and daughter, and thought about where are they going to see themselves in the mirror. I put a circle where they're going to see themselves, so they knew this is for you. And then I put words that were descriptors that were life-giving to them specifically, not general words, but words that were specific to them, because I wanted them over time to remember those words when they're wrestling with lies coming at them, because they're struggling with all kinds of insecurities in that mirror. Try that and see what kind of momentum that creates in your home. Just a simple chalk marker may land you with some words that you need to hear from your kids on your mirror once you get it started. And then another one that I love is putting a journal at each of the spots at your kitchen table, at your dinner table. And that journal becomes one that your family gets to write in for you. Because maybe sometimes they'll tell you words, but it wasn't the right moment for you to hear those. Tell your family, hey, God is speaking to you, and I may need to hear some words. Even your 6-year-old, your 5-year-old, you may need a drawing from them in your journal at some point in your life. And so have them write in there. I have my own. I have one right here. This is one I have from my daughter's written all over it, and I take it on my trips. And one of them that I'll tell you guys about is one I've read over and over again when I'm speaking, and it says, Dad, you can have knowledge and you can be meticulous in your preparation, but without the direction of the Holy Spirit, you will have no power and your talks will not be effective. Make sure you're relying on the Holy Spirit. He will give you strength. Man, do I need to know that and hear that. So have your kids write to you. I love to draw them things and surprise them with it. My daughter is taking her two that she's accumulated to college, and I'm hoping some of those words give her life in moments she needs it. So just a couple thoughts there, Johann.
We better end before I start crying, man. Dr. Danny Huerta, thank you.